Hello, friends. Welcome back to Dentistry Unmasked. My name is David Rice. I'm the chief editor at Dentistry IQ, partner in crime. What's going on?
Hey, what's going on? Pamela Maragliano-Muniz, Chief Editor for Dental Economics. I'm excited to have this conversation today because, you know, we all want our practices to be more successful, right? And we all know we probably should be doing different things to attract new patients or maybe put our money in a proper place or something like that. And we see so many things out there, at least on social media and even in my email about marketing. And I never really know. And I think a lot of people don't know, are you putting good money after bad, or do you have to spend money to make money? And so I really want to kind of cut through all of the crap on this topic. And I couldn't think of a better person. So, Graig Presti, welcome.
Hey, thanks for having me. It's good to be back on. It's been a minute, so you know, it's a little different format, so I'm excited to kind of just make it a casual conversation about kind of what's going on, what in the industry, and hopefully give somebody something to take away from this podcast.
I know I usually leave with like five takeaways every time I talk with you. So guys, buckle up. Now, before we get into, like the meat of the conversation, I kind of want to hear about what you're doing now. So anybody who knows Greg or knows his name, I know I always just kind of associate you with local search for dentists and generating tons of awesome Google reviews and different things like that. But that's not really your game anymore. You've moved on to a new thing, and I want to hear all about it.
Yeah, yeah. So I started local search for dentists around 2010. So really kind of entered the marketplace just when Google reviews and Google Local was really just starting. Um, and we were really one of the first companies in that space to have a proprietary marketing system that helped with patient generation, phone calls, more optimization reviews. And so I founded that business back then and was CEO up until January of 2022. And during that time, we were fortunate enough to have, massive success and growth. We were on the Inc. 500 4 years in a row, which is very, very rare. So we were blessed with that, award many, many times. And then so with that comes the opportunity for our clients and our employees to expand into their future endeavors, right? So we were acquired by iTrack, which is now Amplify 360, and so we're a part of well, not were, but we were a part of a smaller system, and now I sort of left LSFD, let them take over, so now it's more of a one-stop shop for them where they're working with Dental Post and IllumiTrack and all these different things where you have hiring, marketing, and so on and so forth. So I exited from LSFD in January of 2022, was around for a little bit there, and then decided to kind of let them take the reins. They had a whole different roadmap they were going to go on, which was a benefit to our clients for sure. And then I decided, we had so many dentists during that time, sell their practices, right? They exited. And I thought like, because we were getting them so much success, they were exiting, but I saw so many trap doors that were happening when they wanted to sell, just not understanding that process, or even when they were getting offers and going into due diligence, not understanding how to get it to the finish line. And there's always some horror stories there, and there's some success stories too. And so my next endeavor is really involving sort of like an A to Z approach, helping practices on the more of the consultative side of working one-on-one with clients, where we're going to be working with them to help really clean up everything in-house, which involves marketing, of course, but there's the finance side and the patient side. There's a million things, and getting them to where they're prepared to sell kind of, on a roadmap versus just like throwing darts at a wall. And so next gen dental strategies is really going to be that A to Z approach where it doesn't matter where you are in your stage of your practice, we're going to be able to take you and clean everything up or make you grow or whatever your goals are, to where eventually you can, ideally retire with a nice, exit. So it's going to be a cool ride because we're going to be working very, very closely with our clients, and they're going to get more of a direct hands-on approach and access to even me, where that was really not possible with LSFD in the past, just because of our massive growth. That really wasn't possible. So now it's really going to be more one-on-one. So I'm really excited about it, and I appreciate you having me on, kind of talk about that a little bit.
I have to say, it's not lost on me. If you guys are just listening and you're not on our YouTube channel, you're like the Mr. Miyagi for the dentist.
I am, which is sort of like, that's what I've been doing so I don't know. I mean, not a lot of people know this, but I've been doing martial arts since I was about the age of 3. And so I'm the 5th black belt in my family. I have multiple black belts. I've been training in all sorts of martial arts from all sorts of styles. And ironically, my dad's first karate instructor was the producer and fight choreographer for The Karate Kid, Pat Johnson, back in the original. So he's from Niagara Falls, and where I'm from, and basically it's just like, it's in my DNA. It's never going away. So I always like having him behind me.
Sweep the knee, Greg. I'm just saying.
Yeah, sweep the leg, sweep the leg. Exactly.
Oh my gosh, that's crazy. That's awesome. So it sounds like, I feel like we're kind of going full circle in a way in dentistry that,
Mhm.
sometimes you want to have like one person for like different aspects of your business, or now you might want a team where you have like one person that kind of specializes in one thing. But I do think we as dentists need like our person, like our coach that's going to help us in our practices and, all different aspects of our practice because there's so many facets to it. So walk me through how it works. So you have a team then. And so say a dentist signs on, they have one designated person that they work with.
Actually, so we have a team, but really the team is more a team of specialists. So they're going to be working directly with me on their entire strategy and game plan. So really it's going to be, the accountability will be with me directly. And then, so I have, excuse me, I have, an M&A firm, a CPA, marketing that we'll refer to. So basically, I have an entire, I guess, Rolodex where they're going to be able to work with these experts through me, and I'm going to be, sort of the umbrella of that, of helping them navigate. Okay, well, we need to cut this expense. We need to do this with your taxes. We need to do this with your human resources. So that way, every facet of that I'm going to be touching, but I have a team of experts that will make sure that they're compliant or we're making the right decisions. And so it's going to be an entire full 360 view, and they're going to work directly with me. I'm not going to hand them directly off to, I guess an employee in a building who's going to be like their consultative coach. This is very much me working as a specialized, opportunity, because I really want to be selective with who we work with too, because, it's important, because if someone just wants to like clean up their books, that's not going to really work. We really want to run it from a top-down business perspective where everything is efficient, to where you are running that business like a well-oiled machine, and you can practice dentistry, hopefully, at some point, whatever their goals are, get that to the point where you can put it out to market. And then I'll help them even transition from that point to close. So they're really going to be working with me directly and my team of experts.
I like it. So, question for you. I
Sure.
think a lot of dentists underestimate the time it takes
Mhm.
to prepare for that exit. Some people wake up and just decide, like, oh, it's going to be 6 months or a year from now. About how long would you say the average practice takes to really prepare so they can maximize that transition?
Yeah. So I'm going to go backwards and forward. So I guess it depends a little bit too, David, because you think about it, like, if you haven't really paid attention to certain things in your business, right? So
Yeah.
say like, say you kind of just like hand your taxes off to like just a bookkeeper, and you're just kind of like doing the normal, I'm just filing my taxes and paying my taxes, and I'm just not really doing tax mitigation or strategy. You are absolutely missing things that are going to come up later when you get to due diligence, for example, right? So it depends on what kind of mess you kind of have on your hands first, because
Sure.
I would argue it's kind of messy. Um, but let's say it's a B, it's average, it's okay, it's not a mess, right? You know, I would say it probably would take about a year to clean up like the entire, I would call it your practice portfolio, we'll say, right? Which is going to involve everything. Because I think a gross underestimation too is, when you go to exit, it's not just about like what you're doing financially or how many patients you have, right? It involves, what are you doing for human resources? Have you filed your taxes appropriately? Have you, what kind of accounting system are you using? Like, it goes really, 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 really deep. And so you're looking at that about a year. And then even from going to market, it's on average, it's about 6 months to another 12 months after that. So it's not like, and I think this is where you're going. It's not like, oh, hey, today I'm gonna sell my practice, and I'm gonna have an offer in 60 days, and then I'm gonna
Right.
close in another 90. No, it's not like selling a house, right? It on average, with that whole process, I bet you're looking at a good 2 years for the whole thing, and that's in like almost a best case scenario, right? Because not everybody's doing all those perfect things, and that's where people find out the hard way. They go out there and they're like, why am I getting lowballed on all of these offers? I can't do anything with this. This is, and plus, oh, and they want me to work another 2 years after I sell it. Like, and they don't understand that that's coming with it, where those are the trap doors that hopefully I can help transition them through that, understand like, this is exactly how this is going to go. Um, and then you won't be surprised, because I don't know if you guys hear, like, I mean, some of the offers that my clients used to get were just like kind of embarrassing. I mean, like, just, you know, say they're doing $1 million in production, and they're just like offering them like a 6-figure exit, and they don't understand, like, I can't do anything with this. I might as well just keep working. That's because it wasn't structured appropriately to begin with.
So it's sunny out, as you can see. So, like, I shouldn't be so negative and doom and gloomy, but I'm going to throw something out there. I see it. I mean, thankfully, I'm going to knock on some wood. Hasn't happened to me, but it certainly could happen to anybody where an adverse thing happens, like, say, a skiing accident or a car accident or a surgery or something
Right.
that makes you kind of have to sell. Wouldn't you say that? Wouldn't it just be good practice to just kind of keep your practices kind of tight as you go? So God forbid something happens to you, you're like ready to go, as opposed to, oh shit, I now have to like revamp my whole life, or now you're going to be selling your practice for
Right.
pennies on the dollar because you weren't prepared. Like, shouldn't we be doing something all along?
Oh, 100%. And I always tell my clients, and I read this from a really, really good book. It was called Built to Sell, and everyone should just go get it on Amazon and just
Yep.
read it. It's very, very easy read. And the guy basically talks about exactly what you're saying, which is, even if you're in startup mode, medium mode, growth mode, whatever phase you're in, every decision you make, every idea you have, every implementation of a system, any of those things that matter, you need to be structured and thinking in a way of, does this benefit me for my sale, for my exit? So to your point, you always want to have all that buttoned up, because I've had clients where that has happened, where, you know, um, unfortunately they, get sick, or they go through a divorce, or whatever happens, and they are forced, and it's a fire sale. It's a fire sale, and they don't have a choice. And though that bothers me, because I'm like, oh, that's so unfortunate. You're 100% right. You got to be doing that the entire time. And that was something, even with LSFD, with our agency, I was always thinking about, like, does this benefit where we'll be in 10 years? Does this benefit where we'll be in 5 years, right? Like, don't cut corners, make sure it's all like all the knobs are tightened, right? You're 100% right, because you can't predict, like you said, the doom and gloom scenario. And it doesn't have to be doom and gloom, because think of it this way, to make a positive spin on it. Part of selling is seizing upon the opportunity to sell within the marketplace, right? So a lot of people have this conceptual idea of that people are always wanting to purchase businesses. That's not true, because as we've seen, now, and I'm going to speak not just in dentistry, but overall, in terms of acquisitions, they're way down, right? Because interest rates are high. These equity firms or people borrowing money from a bank, it's way more expensive to them. So you take a hit on your valuation. So it's not as opportunistic. But if you time it right and you say, hey, wow, there's low inventory of practices, I've got a good business, people are acquiring business, that might be your best opportunity to seize. So if you're not prepared, you don't have, like David asked, you don't have like a year. Like you just got to go. Like, hey, you're going to make the most amount of money right now, and just kind of make that more of an opportunity. Think of it like selling a house. Like, what do we want? We want low interest rates, low inventory, right? And we want people like coming to us, right? You want to attract them. So you've got the doom and gloom side where you need to be prepared, but what if all of a sudden the market just gets hot, right? And the valuations are like 2 to 3 times what they were maybe the year prior. You might want to just go for it.
Yeah. That's an
Preparation is
incredible
key.
point. Yeah.
Mhm.
And I'll tell you, I mean, Pam, you know this, right? Line up 100 dentists, top 20% who are somehow to the other 80% magic continues to happen. And the 80% are like, oh, woulda, coulda, shoulda. They were lucky. But to your point, Greg, I think what many consider luck, those who are in that bracket would share. Nope, it's just been constant preparation because they
Mhm.
are always built to sell. And you made a great point. If you're ready at all times, life is timing, and that window opens up enough, then you can take advantage of it. And if you're not, it's not a bad thing, docs, right? You're out there, you have your degree, you can still do great things, but when you can maximize the opportunity because you're consistently in the driver's seat and prepared for it.
Yeah.
Pay attention, folks. That's a really great lesson.
And I think to your point, David, there's always this sort of, and I've seen this for so long, 20 years I've seen it, where a lot of times everyone just wants to put their head down and do dentistry
Yeah.
and not read dental economics, listen to this podcast, right? It's sort of, you know, that's not like the super fun stuff, right? It's like, okay, I got to pile through reading about what's going on in the economy. That can get boring, right? They'd rather just do the dentistry that they like to do, run their business, go home, golf, hobbies, whatever you want to do. And, you really need to just commit, like you said, to paying attention to the greater economics of what's going on. Because, as Pam knows, we've done like a million webinars, right? One of the things that like I always harped on was you have to really rip the blinders off and start to really pay attention to the overall economics, business aspects of this country, not just what you're doing in Tulsa, Oklahoma, in your 1 to 2 zip codes, right? Because you're just in a vacuum. You have no real idea as to what's really going on a broader scale if you're not doing, like you said, paying attention to it, right? And so, listen, it's not that much work. Carve out like, I don't know, Friday afternoon, get a glass of wine or a cup of coffee and go through, read, go on Dental Economics website, go to Wall Street Journal, like pay attention to all those things that's going on because all those things impact everything you're doing. And that will allow you to not get blindsided as much. And like you said, seize on that opportunity. And because, when everyone had that mass, when they were selling at like really good valuations back in 2022, right? A lot of practices were, like you said, just rushing to, oh, I want to sell now. I want to sell my practice in September. And I'm like, it's July. That's just bananas. That's not going to work. And so, but if you were preparing the entire time, you would have saw that, in maybe 2020, 2021, it would have been more of an opportunity for you. So you got to kind of like expand your realm of knowledge, just be in the know and all these different things.
So let me ask you this, because I get a little bit of attitude and maybe like a little bit of smug when I kind of look at social media
Hmm.
and people will post very specific business questions about their practice. And then they get all of these responses. And like, I should just create like a canned response and be like, you should subscribe to DE because it's covered here. And it's actually, you're getting advice from an expert and not some random that you don't even know who they are. And they've just decided to take a minute and solve your business problem with one sentence. So how specific? So I agree. You should kind of know what's going on in the world with the government and the economy and those things. But, you coach so many dentists and you've worked with, I mean, I'd say at this point, what, thousands of dentists in your career at least?
Yes.
So how can you do that? Like, don't you think that each practice with different business models and different locations, different zip codes really have a specific need, and they need somebody to talk with them specifically about their practice and not rely on a social media post to give you, I don't know, practice, legal, sometimes HR advice? I mean, that's a little scary, don't you think?
Oh yeah, I think that has been problematic in dentistry forever. Going back to the advent of the dental town forums and different things like that, like, and now, you've got Facebook and this and that. I mean, and all these Facebook groups. I mean, there's this saying of like a confused mind never buys, right? Well, a confused mind never makes a decision either. So when you're going into the realm of, I'm gonna post a question about, I don't know, an HR policy, right? I mean, how many different laws are there and compliance metrics and companies and dentists who you don't know if they're successful or not, or whatever, and you've got 100 responses. Well, the direct result of that is one of two things. You either throw a dart at one of the things that you have bias towards, or two, you don't do anything. And therefore, you don't end up with your customized or more personalized approach with how you should get to that decision. Because you are right, Pam. It's being a dentist in Austin is not the same as being a dentist in Buffalo, New York. Like, those two things are completely polar opposites, right? For a million different reasons. And seeking out advice on those social posts is I would consider it somewhat dangerous, because you're playing with your financial future, your patient's future, your employee's future, however you want to look at it. Like, that is, in my opinion, very, very detrimental to your business, is trying to get these advices from, those posts. And here's sort of this is sort of the dark side of it too, which is, a lot of the experts or the groups, right? They're getting a lot of referral kickback from a company that they have a relationship with. There's no actual, like, conceptual idea there, right? They're doing it for their financial gain, not yours. And so, to your point, that's actually why I decided to do the next gen dental strategies, is because it has to be one-on-one with an expert. Otherwise, you're just stuck, and it's one bad decision after another.
I agree. I think what we're seeing way too much of in dentistry now, especially as you mentioned, Facebook groups and the evolution from Dental Town, and is we're getting very like task driven answers with no strategy behind it. And that task may work in a practice on Transit Road in, Amherst, New York.
Sure.
And it may not work at all over here, not because of the task itself, but because there's no strategy behind it. It's not part of a bigger plan. So,
right.
If you're listening or you're watching, like, be very cautious to pull this tiny piece of information out when it's not part of a broader plan. It's working for that dentist, or, I'm going to put the air quotes around expert, because many times in those places they're not, but
self-proclaimed.
Yeah. An isolated win doesn't make it a victory. It's
right.
People like you who work with thousands of people who have thousands of wins, lots of different areas that are custom built to whomever they're working with. That really matters.
Yeah. And that's the other thing too, is like, we can, anyone can have a million ideas, right? But we all know at some point you got to put the tool belt on and you got to go you got to go implement it. You got to go do it. You got to follow it up. It has to be consistent. You have to do it day in, week out, month out, year out. You have to do all those things. So even taking that one little thing, like you said, and maybe there is a little strategy, we all know, 80% of that just ends up falling off the deep end and never being followed through, right? How many times have, I guess we're all probably guilty of this. You've purchased something that you thought was great and then it just sat in your closet or whatever. That's kind of the same idea, right? Like it just sits there, no one really does anything with it, and there's no strategy or implementation or team behind it, right? Yeah, 100%, 100%. So I guess long story short, don't get advice from random Facebook posts or forum posts. Don't do that, please.
No.
Definitely not. So, we're talking about planning. We're talking about, planning for possible great things, possible, catastrophes, but you'd be prepared for that kind of
Right.
thing. Would you say, from your perspective, like, how are we doing? Like, are you like, oh my gosh, dentistry needs me because nobody really plans except for this small percentage? Or are we all like kind of okay, but could use some tuning? I mean, do you think that the average dentist is planning their practice with this perspective?
No, no, I think it's literally you could do the 1%, the top 1% are are well prepared or organized, however, whatever word you want to use, right? Which leaves the other 99% um pretty messy, pretty messy. And when you think about it, like there's so many things that have to be dealt with and organized and consistently managed that, you know, it's not the exciting stuff, like I said earlier, but and so you look at a practice. I mean, honestly, like the big one for me is understanding your financial house of what your practice is doing, right? Year over year, month after month, quarter after quarter, right? And I don't know if you remember this, Pam, but when we do the webinars, right? I would constantly harp on the idea of the average dentist thinks it's okay if they have a down year, right? That's not okay. And the reason that's not okay is because the more consistent your business is with the financial aspect of things, the better you're going to be when it comes to exit, because that's where the higher valuation is. Because if someone's going to purchase a very stable business, that makes the buyer, one, have to pay more. Two, they understand, I'm buying something pretty solid here, right? And the average dentist just doesn't have that, system in place or the idea in place that, you know, your EBITDA, your cash flow cannot be doing a roller coaster, however you want to look at it. I say year over year, but it's even smaller, minute than that. But the year over year issues where like, oh, we had a record year in 2019, but we got smacked in 2020, and then 21 we never recovered, and then okay, well I plan on having a better one in 2024. Like that zigzag, right, is really one of those trap doors, right? Because I always say this. Do you really think a potential buyer wants to pay the maximum amount of money to purchase your business? No, they're trying to analyze it in a way that makes sense for them. What can we pay the least amount of money for and make it the best for us, not for the seller? They're not overly concerned about you at all. So these ups and downs and messy things that are occurring inside of the average dentist practice, you know, really, really, really sting when you get to the point where you want to do something. Really sting. So consistency is key.
I love that. It's sort of like you might be messy if, because
Right.
I feel like all of us could listen to this conversation and be like, oh, yeah, sucks to be that guy. Oh, yeah, I don't want that in my practice. But if you actually take a minute and look within, read David's book and like take a second to look at yourself, you'll be like, oh, no, that's me. My practice is messy. And I think that, we really do need to kind of be a little bit objective sometimes, take a step back, look at your big picture. And if you need help, there's certainly help out there to get you to where you want to go.
Right.
So Graig, I feel like this half hour flew for me. I don't know about
Correct.
you, David. Like crazy. So thank you so much. This was awesome. It was so good to see you again. And
Yeah, it
where
was
can
great to
people
catch
find
up again.
you?
And David, good to meet you. I know.
You do.
So, and we
Yeah,
have
we're-
that St. Joe's connection. We go back to the old days, so that's good.
I'm having motorcade flashbacks.
Oh
Canisius
yeah,
Joe.
that's right. The Canisius St. Joe's motorcade football rivalry, right? Yeah. Well, if anyone doesn't know, David and I went to the same high school, not at the same time, but we're from the same zip code. So
Indeed.
crazy.
that's cool.
Small world. So Graig, where can people find you?
Yeah, real simple. Just go to greigpresti.com and that's where you can find me. I'm on Instagram and Facebook, and so you can find me there. I do spell my name different. It's Graig instead of Greg. So it's Graigpresti. So head over there. I'll be around, certainly inquire. We're happy to help. Like I said, we are somewhat picky about who we work with, but that's because, like you said, we want that personalized, really hands-on attention. Because when you're talking about going to the point where you want to maybe retire off of something, you really need to have someone who is committed, been through it a million times, understands it, because it is intense, it is hands-on. Otherwise, because it's not a cookie cutter thing.
100%. Pam, I don't know. They say chance favors the prepared. So, friends, probably be a good idea to get yourself in the driver's seat, at least understand what it's going to take, right?
I think that's well put.
Yes. So, okay, everyone. Graig, thank you again. And for Dentistry Unmasked, we will see you all next week. See ya.
Bye, guys.
Thank you, everyone, for watching or listening to the show this week. And thanks to our guests and sponsors on this episode.
Please check out our social media at Dr. Pamela_Maragliano and at Dental Economics Official.
Or you can check me out at Ignite DDS or at Dr. David Rice.
And go to dentaleconomics.com to receive dental economics. You can choose to receive DE in print or digitally, and you can also get the details of our Principles of Practice Management conference on our website.
If you have topics or guests or anything you'd like to talk about on the show, send us an email to dentistryunmaskedpodcast@gmail.com, and we will do our very best to make it happen. Thanks again, and we'll see you next week.